All right, hi everyone. Welcome back to my channel. For those of you that don't know, my name is Jazmen Jafar. I am an OnlyFans creator as well as a licensed attorney. They call me 304 attorney, OnlyFans attorney, and you should definitely subscribe and hit the notification bell. Is that what people do? Yeah, hit the notification bell so that you'll be notified when my videos drop. I just copy what everyone else says. Okay. So today I want to talk about a common comment, or I guess you could say critique, that me and I guess other OnlyFans girls, online sex workers, or just girls on Instagram in general get, which is that we objectify ourselves. So today I want to talk about objectification and self-objectification because I think these concepts are largely misunderstood. And so I really want to delve into it and give you my opinion on it because I think it can facilitate a really interesting conversation. So for this video, please sound off in the comments because I really want to know what you think. Okay, so what is objectification? According to Cambridge, objectification is treating people like tools or toys as if they had no feelings, opinions, or rights of their own. And self-objectification is basically the psychological process in which you start to view yourself in this way. This can lead to an array of negative consequences. It's been linked to higher rates of anxiety, depression, self-esteem, body image issues. And a lot of the research on self-objectification has centered around like the internalization of beauty standards and evaluating yourself based on your physical appearance. I'm going to focus on sexual objectification because this is generally the charge that's aimed at me. And the argument goes, because you put yourself on OnlyFans, you see yourself as nothing more than a mere object to be used for the sexual pleasure of others. So one example is domestic servants. So if you hire someone to clean your house or fix your car, or someone who's serving you food, you're generally using them as a tool to carry out a service. Now, this doesn't mean you're mean to them or that you don't see them as a human being, right? Although some people can be very disrespectful to these people. And I would say in the same way, all the people who objectify me online, the vast majority are very nice to me and they still see me as a human being, but they are using me, and we're using people generally in order to complete a service and fulfill a transactional need. And we're not too concerned with them as human beings beyond that. And this is not like a bad thing. As human beings, we need to compartmentalize, and this involves distinguishing between interactions that are more personal and those that are more impersonal and fleeting. Another example, some people could argue just the fact that we live in a consumerist capitalist society. I can guarantee you that companies and advertisers objectify all of us and they see us as nothing but dollar signs, and they really don't care if we live or die. A lot of people argue that productive labor in a capitalist society transforms all of us into mere objects to be exploited. Most of us use our bodies as labor-producing machines in order to profit a company. And a lot of times, not always, but especially if you're not self-employed like me, you are doing this for a company who is using you to make a profit, who sees you as highly replaceable, and they don't really care about you as much as a human being either. And that's just part of the society that we live in. And I think another example of this in society is entertainers, athletes, musicians, actors, actresses. A lot of times they are using their bodies in order to give us some form of entertainment. And while we can idolize them or we can fantasize about them, a lot of times we also dehumanize them and we pick them apart by their appearance. We pry into their lives. We don't respect their boundaries. And this is pretty normal to see celebrities as this like other thing, this like thing that we objectify and dehumanize. And we don't see them as real people. I think I'm guilty of this for sure too. So what the main difference between, I guess, these common forms of objectification and sexual objectification is that this just has to do with sex, right? And something about seeing somebody, I guess, as a sexual object rather than just a regular object or a product to be gawked at ruffles people's feathers. And the question is why? And I actually want to know. So sound off in the comments below. What is it about sexual objectification that people seem to really, what is it about sex that gets people to feel the way that they feel about it? A lot of it seems to be a moral distinction, and it's reflective of how we view sex as a society. Especially here in the United States, we are more uptight about sex, especially compared to other Western nations like in Europe and stuff. And this is just reflective in our culture. And I think we have a stricter adherence to kind of traditional, archaic religious values surrounding sex. And that's one of the ways we view it this way as compared to societies that are more open on the subject. And then one of the major distinctions, like something that always kind of stood out to me right away when people talked about self-objectification, is there's a difference between self-objectification and allowing yourself or putting yourself out there for other people to objectify you. So if we go to our previous examples about entertainers and service industry workers, they may be putting themselves out there and people may be objectifying them, but that doesn't mean that they're viewing themselves that way, right? It doesn't mean that they view themselves as, objects devoid of human thought, emotion, values. So just because you're objectifying someone, it doesn't mean that they're objectifying themselves. Your opinions about somebody are not, or your feelings about somebody are not synonymous with their feelings about themselves. That was like the first thing I always thought of when people are like, you objectify yourself. I'm like, really? Like I objectify myself? That would mean that I think of myself as an object and I don't care, or I put my thoughts and feelings and my status as a human second. And if you know anything about me, you know that I am all about my own thoughts, my own feelings. In fact, I'm sitting here on YouTube telling you my thoughts and feelings right now, and you're sitting here listening. I might be so extreme in this that I think I'm going to put my feelings and opinions ahead and above your feelings and opinions pretty much every single time, unless you're like a close friend or a family member. And I don't really know how else to say this other than like, I quite simply I care about myself so much that I wouldn't change my behavior, alter my behavior so that you could see me more favorably or you could perceive me more favorably, especially if you're not somebody that I know or respect in any way. And the benefits I retain from whatever behavior you find objectifying or objectionable really outweighs what you think. And so, the people who are like, you're objectifying yourself, or if you view me as an object and you're not somebody that I talk to or care about or respect, rest assured that I probably view you as an object too. One that I probably don't even know exists most of the time. So it's always just a weird thing that people say. The next thing I really want to talk about is how much consensual participation impacts objectification. There's a big difference between consensually participating in, putting yourself out there sexually versus involuntary objectification. So the difference between consensual participation and involuntary objectification is, as sex workers, we are making the informed choice to be part of this industry, and our agency here is respected. You are respecting me and my autonomy by accepting and respecting my decision to put my sexuality on display for you to consume for a benefit to myself. I think it's actually more objectifying to claim or to exercise some kind of control over my or any woman's body and determine when you think it's okay for it to be on display or not okay, and take the woman's feelings and thoughts and her status as a human being and her agency out of the equation entirely. When we are consensually participating to be in this industry, we're actively involved in taking control of our work, setting boundaries, and shaping our careers. One of the best parts of my job is that I'm in total control of what I choose to put out there. I am in control of how I am allowing myself to be portrayed. And while I don't think that sex work has to be empowering, I think that's a weird, unique, like almost pressure we put on sex workers, that it's like either empowering or it's not. But I personally feel empowered by that because I know that is a luxury that a lot of people don't get in their jobs. I love the financial independence I get. I love that I have the freedom to kind of do what I want day to day. That doesn't mean I don't work hard, but I have a lot of freedom and control over my work in this job than I think I would have in almost any other job. I also find it really empowering to be part of this community. It's a super marginalized community. I've always, in other parts of my life, I've always been a part of, like, I guess, the privileged community. I was, I had parents that were well off. I went to a law school where a lot of people were privileged. And even being a law student is a symbol of privilege in a lot of ways. Whereas now I'm a sex worker, which puts me in a community that is largely marginalized. And I feel empowered by being able to get on here and challenge some of those prevailing norms and fight against the stigma that this industry faces. The way I view objectifying, I don't even think sexually objectifying someone isn't always bad. You know what's interesting is Dennis Prager was saying this, and he caught some right on the heat for it, but he's defended it and he doubled down on it. And I think he talked to Shapiro and a couple other people about it, where he was like, I mean, you even sexually objectify people you care about in different contexts, right? The world isn't black and white. And he was saying, like, you could love your wife and you could love what she has to say, but when you're having sex with her in the moment, you are seeing her as an object of lust, and you are, getting out your primal sexual urges with her. And in that moment, you're not thinking about, like, what does she feel today? Like, not saying that you don't care about that at all in that person, but in that moment, you can objectify someone in a moment, and it's not always consistently disrespectful. This black and white thinking is, I think, one of the biggest ills that in society, and it sucks that our brains naturally want to do that. It's easier for our brains to do that, but that's where critical thinking comes in. And black and white thinking is usually an indication that you're not thinking critically about a topic. Also, I think it's important to also know that not all sex workers feel the same, right? So some sex workers do report that they feel like their self-esteem is lowered and they have negative body image issues due to their work. Some report the opposite. Some say that they feel better and they feel better about themselves. And some people just haven't seen a change at all. And I would put myself in that category. Some feel overall great about their encounters with their clients, and some don't, especially when their boundaries aren't respected. I am someone who definitely enforces my boundaries online. Everybody knows that. And I actually love my experiences with my subscribers and my followers on all my platforms. And I really love this job. Many sex workers see sex work as a notable improvement in the conditions of labor that they're in compared to jobs that they've worked in the past. Sex work is often a pragmatic choice driven by economic necessity, like any other job. Now, for me, I had other really viable careers, but a lot of people don't. But a lot of people, if they're choosing between waitressing or sometimes scrubbing toilets or whatever, I'm not saying those jobs are bad. This is an improvement for them, and they like the conditions of sex work better. And for people to put their moral values onto those people and say what they're doing is wrong, I think is unfair. All forms of labor are commodified to some extent, and sex work is a job like any other job. The argument that selling your body is unique to sex work. So selling your body in the context of sex work is very similar to other forms of labor in a capitalist society where you are trading your labor for a valuable resource. Key distinction lies in individual choice, consent, an agency that you feel over your work. And, for somebody like me and many other sex workers who choose to do this, we feel really happy about all of those things. So I would love to hear on people's opinions as to why selling sex is so much different than other forms of labor under a capitalist society. So sound off in the comments. If you're able to make the argument, because I'm an atheist, so if you're able to make the argument without jumping to your religion or the authority that you follow on morality, that would be better. I think it would make for a more interesting conversation, but you can let me know what you think regardless below. And I hope you enjoyed the video. If you want me to do more videos like this, where I kind of like break down my thoughts on a topic, let me know, because I definitely plan on doing more in the future. So make sure you're subscribed.